Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, all
Oh,
good. How are
good.
you
How are
guys?
you?
Doing good. How about yourself? Congratulations on the through hike.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so much.
you.
Yes.
We can try to get how's the image on your side? We can try to get it a little closer, but
The
the
hotel room we're in is kind of awkward.
the setup's a little awkward. Does this
Uh,
work for you? Or do you want us to get it closer?
no, this
No,
this will
works.
work. This
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
We're balancing it on a packet of Oreos right now, and then the GPS is the brick that's holding it back against the wall. So we're making it work.
So no
Oh,
cookies during this.
you can't eat Oreos then.
Okay, we have other cookies, so.
And it's
okay.
also this is our first 0 day in a while, so the amount of food that's been put into the body in the last 24 hours has been. I don't need more cookies. I
think
can't.
This is our
I
first
can't.
0 day in a month, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a
Oh.
real long time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically,
We've been
the
pretty.
time we spoke.
Excuse me.
I think the last time we spoke, was our
Yeah.
last 0 day.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've just been trying to get through Ohio.
Yes.
Yeah, because
It's
last time we
like that.
chatted. Excuse me.
It sounds like that hasn't been the greatest part of the journey so far.
It was.
And not top 10. Not top 10 trails, I would say. I guess I've done 10 trails, so maybe it's number 10, the Buckeye Trail.
Does
But
it not even hit your list? It's been something. It's been something. Yeah, I think last time we talked was Cortland, PA.
Clarion.
Clarion.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We were in Pennsylvania, weren't we?
You were just going into Ohio, I think.
Yeah, in the next few days.
In the next
Yeah.
few days, yes.
Yeah. So a lot's happened.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into that, yeah, congrats on your guys' through hike. That's super cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been really amazing for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
Was it nice single track trail?
So it was
Yeah.
single track, yes.
Yeah.
So we were walking behind each other for sure all the time.
Mhm.
But that makes this trail really difficult compared to many of the others around. Is that every foot placement you need to watch out for because it's all loose rocks and protruding sharp rocks, and
yeah.
so you couldn't just walk and look around. You had to stop to enjoy the scenery.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty tough on the ankles, especially ours because they haven't been doing a lot lately. But we managed to get through, which
Yeah.
was really great. Yeah, it was
How
beautiful.
long? How far and how long?
So we did it in 14 days eventually,
Yeah.
and it's 225 kilometers. So
110, 120 miles, something around there.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the average
Yeah.
will do it around 18 to 14 days.
yeah,
Yeah. With the terrain, it sounds like you guys were climbing mountains, and yeah, it's more exhausting when you have to, think about each foot placement. If you're not really like consciously thinking about it, but it's just like you get to camp and you're like, why am I so tired? And
yeah.
Yeah.
18 miles is like your brain was always firing off like, don't trip here, don't fall off here.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't even remember what that's like.
No. We can live vicariously through you guys for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're about to get into Michigan in the next 200 or so miles.
1
though.
week.
Yeah, we'll have to make our ankles go all terrain again pretty soon.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ohio's pretty much when it's not road, you wish it was road for the most part.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because the Buckeye Trail is very focused on adding new trail sections, and they're not particularly focused on maintaining the trail sections that they already have.
Mm.
So there's some very interesting experiences. Whenever
Yeah.
we would like get off road, we were like, no, we do that. There was a trail section coming up, and we're like, fingers crossed it's through a state park, because then maybe someone might have been there recently.
It's the one trail system we've hiked that we weren't actively looking forward to the trail segments of the trail.
Okay.
Yeah, we're like, when do we get back on the road again? I just want to do a nice road walk.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it because of so many fallen trees and that kind of stuff?
Less
No.
fallen trees. It's more that part of the thing that's frustrating about it is that the Buckeye Trail is a loop around the state of Ohio. And so we come in from Pennsylvania, and instead of just going across through the northern section, which would be about 450 miles, and then into Michigan, we go across, and then we do the southern part of the Buckeye Trail all the way across and then back up. And it's about 1,000 miles.
At a few points, we were like within rock throwing distance of West Virginia. Like we were like a mile from the West Virginia border. And then it got us deeper into the state, like northbound where we want to go. And then in another 200, 300 miles, we were in rock throwing distance of Kentucky. So like it's extremely south to be the North Country Trail. But
yeah, so because it's in the south, it's not fallen trees so much as it's like overgrown with vines, poison ivy, raspberries, blackberries. And so if they don't maintain the trail, it just gets like swollen up by the jungle. And you're fighting through like thorns and nettles and like the occasional down tree, but mostly just wild overgrowth.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, with the Buckeye, since the NCT coincides with the Buckeye Trail through most of Ohio, there's a lot of, like the Trail Association, there's a lot of support in the context of, hey, we'll provide you with maps, we'll provide you with data, but it's not yet at the point that enough people travel it. So at least our theory for their theory of how they maintain their trails is saying enough hikers will go through that they'll break in the tread themselves. But that's not
the case.
That's not, it hasn't hit that point yet. Like it's still very much, you need a lot of work to go out there and cut all this stuff. So
there's enough places too that like the Buckeye Trail is responsible for this maintenance. So they're not thinking about like through hikers that are doing another trail. They're trying to make the Buckeye longer and more beautiful. And like they're trying to put it through all of the most scenic places of Ohio, because that's the point of doing the Buckeye. But for us, that means that they're going to make us go 10 miles the wrong direction so that we can get into a national park for 10 miles and then have a state park for 10 miles and then have us walk back on this almost the same road to get basically where we started from. And that's great for the Buckeye if that's what you're doing, but that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so blowdowns would have been easy to navigate. It was just more so like a lot of the time, and we don't want to make the Buckeye sound bad, but he's like, it's good for a through hike if you're doing the Buckeye, but for the NCT, it's hard to make your miles on a loop that goes like this, and then finally comes back up eventually.
There's a particular one that's called the Wilderness Loop that has a bypass. That's not the NCT. So we had to do the long section.
This is what hurt mentally.
It sucked. So the bypass is 20 miles of road walking.
Or
the Wilderness Loop is 167 miles, half of which is still on road. So it is still like 80 more miles of road walking than the road bypass would be. But because it's certified NCT, we've had to do it.
Yeah.
So the single track one was just tough, like physically pushing through that type of brush, but then it was also just tough mentally because you didn't feel like you were going anywhere. Like even when you were doing 180 miles, like there were some weeks we were doing 230 miles a week, like really pushing, averaging over 30 miles a day, even with Nero days, like whatever it may be, but it just didn't feel like we were going anywhere. Like it felt like we did.
Spent an entire 2 days walking east and we're going west.
So mentally and physically there are a lot of tough points in Ohio.
I can imagine. My God. I can imagine it feels like going nowhere at a certain stage, but almost there from almost at the end.
So what's even funny with the NCT and the Buckeye Trail, how they communicate, we just had the director of, so we have about 120 miles left of the Buckeye Trail with the NCT, and then it gets to this little town called Defiance, Ohio, where it splits off and it has like 70 miles up to the Michigan border. So we had the director of that chunk email us, and he emailed us all this information, which was super cool, but all he manages is that 70-mile chunk off of the Buckeye. And what was hilarious is he's like, we are actually in the process of making that chunk longer. We're going to actually make you go this way
and then come
back. And he's like, this year you don't have to do it, but
it's not official yet. Don't worry.
Yeah. So it's, again, this trail, we say this, and I know the NCTA association themselves might not say this, but it doesn't feel like it's built for through hikers. Like it's just long enough that it's kind of like you either have to attack it really well and strategically to actually complete it as a through hike. But if they keep growing it, which it seems like they're doing, eventually it's going to put it out of the grasp of anyone that wants to do a through hike on the trail.
Yeah.
So it's pushing it.
It's already right on the edge of
it's
impossible.
It's already right on the edge of like being possible. And for us, that we can make up our short days with bigger miles, like that's okay. But for somebody that's doing 20 miles average in a day, you're not going to be able to do it in a season. And it could be a world-class hiking trail with some of the stuff you do see and some of the places you go through. It's just so long that I think it pushes people off of it.
Yeah. Well, and then there are the dogs of West Virginia.
There are the dogs of Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky.
Yeah.
Ferocious.
So like one of those questions that people are like, oh, but like, aren't you scared of bears? Like, aren't you worried about animals? And now I have a new response, which is like, actually, the animal that I am most afraid of is dogs on the trail.
It's nuts.
Because it's these rural areas that are super backwoods, and they just have their dogs loose, and these dogs never see pedestrians in their lives. And they're also like, I feel like some of them probably are like trained to be attack dogs. It's that kind of like nervous area, that nervous feeling. And we got chased. I had to pepper spray, I think, 3 different dogs. Because on the advice of another hiker, I bought pepper spray at Walmart. We were told by 3 different people that there was this house that had a pack of about 12 to 20 dogs that would attack.
Aggressive. They pinned down a hiker a month ago. Like a pack of dogs pinned down this hiker and bit him really aggressively. So not great.
So I picked up some personal defense stuff, and I was glad I had it. I ended up using it. That they like, not only did they come at us barking, but one of them actually like chased me down a road. And like, and not just barking, like
actively trying to bite.
Oh yeah.
So every day you have to get lucky. You have to be part dog whisperer, and then you just have to like walk fast and hope the thing at your heels doesn't bite you. Like the dogs were ferocious around here.
Yeah, a couple of times we're like, yes, there's a truck coming. That means this dog is not going to run out.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's not comfortable walking for sure.
No.
This was the first trail system. I mean, I guess we have so much of Ohio. If I'm going on too much again, stop the rambles and point me in the direction you guys want to go. But when we first got into Ohio, there's a chunk from Lisbon to Zor, which is pure NCT. It's before it connects to the Buckeye Trail, and it's just getting you to the Buckeye. Pure road walk, goes through all these small communities. This was the first time on any hike I've ever done that I have had somebody premeditatively sick their dog on me. Not just like their dog was out and about in their yard and it was an aggressive dog that I happened to walk by. This person waited until I walked by their house
and then opened the
gate and let their attack like Rottweiler / pit bull like charge me. And like I had my trekking poles out and was like pushing it away with my trekking poles and just having to continue to walk fast and be like, all right, hopefully this thing doesn't follow me all the way down. I wasn't a fan of that experience.
That's super weird.
Yeah.
What makes such a person do that? Indeed, you wonder.
Well,
I called him
we did find out later that we were in an area near a prison.
Yes.
And when they release people, if they don't have a ride, they just have to walk back to town. So I think that guy may have, I don't know. Like
we were also in a place that a lot of banners were flying on flagpoles that the phrases of the banners weren't contingent to happy society type stuff. So when he sicked the dog on me, it wasn't
a surprise.
It wasn't a big surprise, but it still wasn't enjoyable.
No.
I think in the videos that day, I called him a gentleman.
You called him a charming gentleman.
A charming gentleman like 20 times just because if I didn't say that, there was going to be other things that wouldn't have been too friendly.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. It's such a weird thing though, because you can see that surely you can see your hikers and you mean no harm and you just pass through. There's a difference there between people that are actually there for making trouble. So that's weird.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like the trail system where we're getting routed through, it's even though it's two trails, the Buckeye and the NCT.
And it's actually a third trail too. The American Discovery Trail uses this route also. It's
still traveled so lowly that these communities still aren't used to hikers. So it's still not known that a backpack and trekking poles mean hiker. In these communities,
nobody walks anywhere. There's nowhere to walk to. So people are just not sure what you're doing. And they assume you're up to no good. Because a lot of these places, especially in the Southern Buckeye, people don't really through hike this trail a lot. And the places that we were, for the most part, you might go do a section of that wilderness loop for a week backpacking
get
trip.
Picked up at the trailhead.
Get picked up at the trailhead. Nobody walks the road ever unless they're through hiking. And there's like 4 people a year who do that.
So it's still not popular enough to change the locals' perceptions, because out of 4 hikers, they still might only see 1 hiker a year. And that 1 person a year for them is still a wanderer and not a hiker. So we've had some more town stops too, that when we get to town, we have to do like the kind of hiker talk, like the
sweet talk, the hotel.
Yeah,
people.
It's like, have you had other hikers come in, so they automatically know we're not wanderers, and their perception changes too. Like there's a little.
Well, and sometimes they're like, no. Like, no hike. Like, what are you talking about? There aren't any hikers. And you're like, oh, we're doing this trail, blah, blah, blah. And then they get friendly.
We found stuff with these lesser known trails. Like we've both done trails that not a lot of people do, like the Pinhoti, the Vancouver Island Trail, like stuff like that. That when you get to these communities, as long as you open up conversation, it's okay. But getting to that point is sometimes hard. So we found like kind of an initial icebreaker that works. So you start talking about what you're doing, and then the perception changes and people become friendly, but it's getting to that point too.
Interesting.
But we're a week away from places that people actually hike again.
Okay, that's great. Because what would be a main trail that's coming up then, or just
it will still be NCT. So the NCT coincides a lot with state parks and a lot of stuff, but it'll be mainly NCT. It's just now that we're going to be in Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin,
North Dakota, I don't know, but those are places that people actually go on purpose to go hiking. And they're more like outdoorsy communities also. Like, I don't even think people really hunt in the area that we were walking through. So it's just no context.
So the communities themselves, even if they're not big through hiker communities, they're hikers. Like the places around there know what hikers are doing. If they see a backpack, they know what you're doing. So should be okay. What was it, like 4 or 5 days ago? We were in like a state park, and this state park was actually like well maintained and taken care of. So first we were like exclaiming, the trail's awesome. We're actually moving.
Wow, you can see where the trail goes. Amazing.
And then 2, we ran into like joggers. I don't think we saw a backpacker, but we ran into joggers, like mountain bikers, other people out there for like outdoor activity. We're like, that's so cool. There's people doing stuff outside.
Missed that for quite a while.
So it's lonely a bit as well, do you feel?
I think the whole NCT has been such a solo experience that it's not really like loneliness so much as just feeling like, I think especially when we were hiking the wrong direction, it just felt like a bit pointless. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we out doing this long hike? Like, it was really hard to find motivation. I think that's part of seeing, even if they're not through hiking, like other people out in the outdoors, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a genuine hobby that people enjoy sometimes. Even if I'm not enjoying it right now, it's possible to have fun outdoors. But yeah, I mean, I've just been telling myself to get through the Buckeye that like we're not on the NCT right now. We're doing the Buckeye, and then we'll get back on the NCT when we get to Michigan. We're almost there.
We're almost there. And and it's not exactly lonely because like her and I've done trails together and we have each other, but it's lonely in the sense of lonely. I don't know if that's the right word. It just doesn't have hiking community. It doesn't have other hikers to share it with. And we love sharing the experience together. That's why we hike together and travel together. But there's something to be said about having the community around you too when you're doing it. To share in the moments like she was just saying. So yeah, we have each other. She would probably at times wish she was probably hiking alone and be more. She would probably wish she would be more lonely at times.
No. I need you to fight the dogs for me.
That's true. The videos of Ohio get super weird because the mind just went to a super weird place, and like there's been an ongoing joke for close to 1,000 miles now about weight limits and bridges, because the amount of bridges we pass with like weight limits of like 15 tons, 20 tons, 25 tons. So if she's ahead and it says like 30 tons, I'll just scream, baby, baby, like loud as possible. And on these rural roads,
there's nobody there.
And I'll be like, there's a weight limit you can't cross. It's been a joke for 1,000 miles and I can't stop myself anymore.
Like first it was funny and then it was annoying, and now it's so annoying that it's funny again.
That's where my humor lies. It lies in a circle. You have to push through that annoyance threshold and get to the humor on the other side again.
I mean, the other thing that's weird about the Buckeye Trail is that despite being 50% on road, there's no towns.
Oh.
There's like resupply has been a real challenge until we started getting farther west towards Dayton, where we are now. Like they do a really good job, I will say, of like picking roads that are actually pleasant to walk on, which is part of why we were looking forward to them, because it's a lot of the time it's like ATV tracks or really rural roads through the woods that are actually just like wider trail.
Yeah.
But that means, because they're trying to keep you off of these like deadly highways, that like we've had to do some pretty intense food carries just to get to town.
Carries, yeah. We've
And
done.
Nobody's gonna pick us up hitchhiking.
No.
And there's no taxi services, because even the small towns that are nearby are way too small to have a taxi.
Yeah.
So we've had to do a couple of like 5 miles walking into a town just to get there, like off the trail road.
Yeah.
And that's been tough too. We did like, I think almost 16 days without being able to do laundry, because
That was a long time.
none of the motels had laundry, and the laundromat at one of them was like across an interstate overpass, so we could like see it, but we couldn't get there.
That was a long time.
Yeah.
So we just once again.
We were eating crappy dollar store food. I'm just complaining now. Yeah, the only thing that these towns have are dollar stores, so we're just eating pure sugar.
I like that. She doesn't like that.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's like 4 days,
Yeah, so
but then you want something different.
yeah. We have been craving. We've been trying to pound back a gallon of green juice once per town now when we get here. Like if we're not able to get at least some type of nutrition, we try to get a gallon of green juice in to get at least some semblance of nutrition. So
Yeah.
still not the healthiest, but healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that they make the Buckeye Trail big to send you through all the scenic parts. Are there actually scenic parts that are then worthwhile, or because it's still at your bottom of the list, is it not that interesting?
Sort of. So the Wilderness Loop, there is a part of it. It's in the only national forest in Ohio, or one of the only ones, Wayne National Forest. It's called like the Archer Fork Loop. It's 12-mile loop that we do 7 miles of. That was pretty. There's like big sandstone cliffs. That was the only time that we saw other people backpacking while we were there.
Hawken Hills was cool too.
That was my next point. Yeah. So that one's okay, but it's such a pain to get there that by the time, so we basically like bushwhacked 10 miles, walked 7 miles of good trail, and then like bushwhacked 14 miles back out.
Yeah.
And then we're on roads again. Hawking Hills is great, actually. It's really beautiful, like sandstone gorge. It's actually like nothing I've ever seen. It is one of the most beautiful state parks that I've been to.
It is pretty amazing.
We got there on 4th of July weekend.
Bonkers.
bonkers.
It was nuts.
It was like a Disney World. It was
Yeah.
like standing in line.
It was straight
at
up.
Disney
It was
World,
straight up Disney World.
trying to get through these like crowds of tourists. We're trying to do like a 37-mile day, and we're just like salmoning our way through. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's
then like
two. That's two.
Shawnee, I would say like I would maybe visit there.
It depends how you define scenic. If you want to see a lot of dogs, yeah, I get it. I get enjoyment from the dogs. Like I smile when I see like a.
There were some pretty nature preserves though. Like if you wanted to like go have a walk in some peaceful woods, there's plenty of that.
Yeah.
It's just that like we didn't.
It's just for a through hike. It's hard
Yeah.
to connect it.
And it's a lot
section
of like,
hike, beautiful.
It's a lot of like 4 or 5 or 10 mile sections that you're like, this is nice, and then it's like, haha, right back in the swamp. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And I would do all of Ohio again for these 2 moments with 2 very fat dogs that I had.
Yes.
So the first
These are good dogs.
These are good dogs. The first one is we walked by this little middle of nowhere corner store. It was just like a gas station or something. And this was like during the heat waves that it was like 95 plus, like you sweat.
36 to 40 degrees Celsius
Right.
was what we were
Pretty hot.
dealing with.
Yeah.
Not great.
You're sweating standing still.
Yeah.
So like there was this guy that had just come out of the corner store, and like the corner store had sold deli meats, all this stuff, cold cuts. And he's just sitting on the curb shirtless, hand feeding his fat dog deli meat.
And just being like, you're such a good
Yeah, and just like
boy.
squishing its face. And like just seeing that moment just like for the next week made me smile. So like anytime like we were on like the hot road walks, I was just thinking about the guy like being so lovey to his dog.
This dog was so fast.
Oh, it was a straight unit.
This dog gets hand-fed deli meat
Every day. Yeah.
And it was just squishy. It was so good.
Oh yeah. So I would do it again for that. And then there was another moment in the Shawnee, which is like pretty backcountry. Like picture like Appalachia. I don't know if you guys Appalachia like poor and Appalachian like
It's
rural.
like people like living on trailers on 100 acres of land, like no neighbors, tiny houses. Nobody has money, but all of their gardens look great. That kind of thing.
It's very rough looking, but the people are pretty cool. So there's this guy that he doesn't see me yet, and I'm walking down the rural road, and he's sitting on his chair on the front porch, and his fat dog sitting on the chair next to him. And again, he's just squishing its face and just talking to it.
Like 85,
Yeah.
and like it's like the skinniest old man.
He's been there for 80 years. However, he's been there his entire life. And he's just squishing his dog's face and like talking to it in like baby talk. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And like I embarrassed him because he didn't expect anybody to be there. So he jumped a little bit. And
he was just like loving on his dog in that way that you do when you don't think anyone is looking at you. Just like it was very sweet.
Those 2 moments were morale boosters for sure.
Yeah. We've been talking about the fat deli meat dog, I think, for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It was very sweet.
Yeah. Oh, and then a dog who just followed me for ages.
Oh yeah, Stank.
Yeah, Stank dog.
Yeah, Stank dog. That dog smells so bad. It was such a good dog though.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like just hanging out in a roadside park and just like was clearly friendly, like romped right up to me and was like, hi, you're my new best friend. And then I went and like picked up a dead squirrel and like brought it to me and was like, I'm so good, I brought you a present. Chucked it down, rolled in it, and then ran up to me and was like trying to lick my face. I was like,
Yeah.
Stank dog, no.
Let's not do that.
I love you, but no. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ohio's been, never expected Ohio to be this way. I mean, I don't know what expectations I had for it, but it's been a little of everything.
I was expecting more cornfield and less tropical jungle.
Yeah. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was more the mental toughness compared to physical toughness.
Yeah, I would say so. There's a lot of factors for us in Ohio. So like we were still, when we first got into Ohio, we were still like close to 4,000 miles left on the trail, which is still a number that you can't start piecing apart. Like it's still such an astronomical number that
too much.
Yeah. Like 100 miles doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. It still feels like a drop in a bucket full of holes. Like you're not going anywhere. So there was that. Heat waves started hitting us, like just saunas of heat.
Really intense, humid heat too. Like I think you don't mind it too much, but I was really suffering like heat to the point that I was sweating so much that my hands started to get like wrinkly, like I'd been sitting in the bathtub for too long. Like I was that wet all the time.
It was nasty.
Heat rash from like, neck to toes. Both of us were just like red and like gross all the time.
And then it was tick season. It was just mentally.
And then like bad trail, feeling like you're going the wrong direction, and then just having to like constantly be on alert for these attack dogs and cars also, because they don't expect anyone to be on these roads. So when they are driving on them, they just haul ass.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of like mental factors going into it.
Yeah, feeling like you were going the wrong direction was a big part. Like, it didn't have any of the classic things that we have come to expect out of through hiking. Like, it didn't have feels like we're going somewhere. Feels like we're trying to complete a goal. Feels like we're actually knocking miles off. It didn't feel like we were hitting checkpoints. It just felt like we were wandering in a lot, to be honest.
When every day's a road, they all like blend together. It's boring and a little scary and uncomfortable.
Yeah, even when you're doing big miles,
you don't feel like
it doesn't feel like it feels like you're accomplishing something each day, but it also doesn't feel like you're accomplishing anything towards something.
Yeah.
So there's this little town, Peebles and kind of Waverly. So like Waverly and Peebles were kind of our little places that felt checkpointish. And like after these two towns is kind of when the mind started. We've had this conversation like multiple times for both of us. It seems like the mind kind of reset, because when we hit these places, we were sub 3,000 miles, which we've both done trails that long. So now it actually feels like,
I know how long this is. I know what this is going to feel like. Yeah. And also like when we got to the town of Peebles, that was when basically the end of this weird loop that we've been doing kind of stopped. Okay. And so it's like when we get there, we're actually heading towards Michigan directly. Yeah. And we had also been told from a couple other thru hikers coming eastbound that the trail got less bad after that. So when we're getting close to there, we're like, it's almost done. We're almost out. We're almost done. We're getting there.
And we were saying this chant when we still had in Peebles 400 or 500 miles left of Ohio, but it felt like we were out because we weren't doing these go back to go forward, to go back farther, to go forward. So it felt like we were going.
And also like the other checkpoint that I was looking forward to, there's the town of Milford, which is we've been on a bike path for the last how long? 3 days?
3 days, yeah.
And that just goes like straight north. So Milford is where that bike path starts. Milford is also the one and only gear store that's on trail in Ohio. And our sleeping pad had been leaking.
Yep.
One of my trekking poles is broken and is still broken.
We had the same pair of shoes since that we last talked to you.
Yeah.
So the pavement got so hot that it literally melted the plastic off of the soles of my shoes. And so I was walking on basically just the foam for 250 miles or so.
We do it to ourselves. We can replace it. We're just stubborn and don't like to break our pace during the day. It's like if it's not convenient in front of us, we're not doing it.
Yeah. And so it was like in my head, I'm like, once we get to Milford, it's almost over. We can go to the gear store. We can get like a patch pad, get a good sleep, or get a new pad.
Yep.
And like I had been trying to patch this thing with stuff from the like rural hardware store that also sells chicken feed. Didn't work. Stuff from Walmart didn't work. Random stuff that I had in my pack that was like blister tape and duct tape. And that like almost sort of worked, but not really.
No.
And so our pad had been getting more and more deteriorated. Like it keeps getting these little pinholes. I think it's actually defective. So it would first it started that we had to inflate it once during the night. And by the time we got to Milford, it was so bad that it would, as soon as we laid down on it, 10 minutes later, we were on the ground.
Oh.
Yeah.
So in addition to everything else going on in Ohio, we weren't sleeping well.
I was fine with the ground. I wasn't fine with the heat.
Yeah.
So once we got to that gear store in Milford, it was like really the the emotional state really perked up. We're like, we made it. I've been looking forward to this gear store since we got to Ohio. When we got there, I think I was far too enthusiastic and maybe freaked out the staff. So I was like, we made it.
She was happy. She was very happy we made it.
I've been thinking about this place for weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But they didn't have trekking poles, unfortunately.
Well, I wanted to fix it because I bought them using my pro deal from work, and so they're not under warranty. And I don't want to spend money.
They gave us
So-
WD-40 and pliers, and we just we looked like monkeys in the gear store trying to get it off. Like, she was holding one end and I had the pliers in the other end, and we were just trying to yank it in.
Telescoping poles stuck together.
Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But they had shoes.
No.
Not for him.
No.
He's still on the shoe train.
Yeah. I got another pair of shoes that are just trashing my feet. That
Yeah, he got
It's-
different shoes,
yeah.
and they're not right.
No, I'm gonna be too stubborn until we pass the gear store again, though, to fix it. I'm very tempted to take a knife and just cut the sides of the shoes because they're too tight, and they're just like, feels like my foot's in a foot prison every day. But it is what it is. My feet are bricks. They can handle it for.
We're gonna pass a
we're
running
so-
store tomorrow.
We're sub 3,000 miles. We're close to the end at this point. It's
Yep.
it's right there.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can handle anything now. There's a chewable goal within reach.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a gear store tomorrow, that would be.
We're passing a running store tomorrow where he
Oh.
can probably get shoes.
Oh yeah, it's like a mile off trail that it's 16 miles trail miles from here, and then it's like a mile off trail that we could get to it. That if we time it right, might go there.
Yeah, we're still on the bike path for another week, basically.
Another-
So
Another week about, yeah.
yeah, bike path has been nice. I've been very pleased to be on the bike path.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also a different sense. So like when you're hiking and you feel like every waking hour has to be movement to be, since this trail is so long, it's like when you're not doing any miles or taking an hour break and you're like, oh, I could have done 3 extra miles, like it compounds itself. So when you feel like every waking hour has to be movement, it takes away some of that comfort of being able to take care of stuff that is necessary, like a sleeping pad or shoes or gear or stuff like that. And it's like, I think a lot of people that through hike or do different stuff, like for people that don't know a lot about it, ask the question a lot of the time is like, well, why don't you just stop and take care of this stuff? And it's like, the schedule doesn't allow for it at a certain point. And I mean, granted, if we were less stubborn people, in the long run, it's smarter to do it, but it's just like, it's hard to break out of that mentality saying, I have to use every hour available to move down the trail.
That, and I mean, legitimately, a lot of the small stuff that's been adding up is like, we're in the middle of nowhere.
That too,
and
that makes it hard.
there's no, like, if we were going to go take care of some of these errands anywhere except like this Milford Dayton area, like it would be a full day to
Yeah,
get anywhere
it
that
would
had the
wash.
resources to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, is this a bad enough problem that we're gonna like stop and spend time fixing it? Or are we just gonna like push as hard and as fast as we can to get somewhere where we can help ourselves with it? So
Yeah.
you just gotta like go for it.
Yeah.
So we hit that little curve now that we got over the hump of gear breakdown, mental breakdown, and now we're cruising again.
Weather breakdown. We
Weather
had some
breakdown.
really intense thunderstorms, some flash flooding,
Oh my God, yeah.
some in crazy heat.
Yeah.
The heat was so bad.
The heat was rough.
Yeah.
There was somebody that commented, it was an awesome comparison. They're like, if you were on the AT for when you got into Ohio, the amount of how far south they brought us is comparably, if we were at Mount Katahdin on the Appalachian Trail,
Yep.
it would have brought us as far south as Virginia or like the Shenandoahs. And then when we get into Michigan, it'll bring us 200 miles north of Katahdin. And so as a comparison, it's just like it brings you down and brings you straight back up. but it's part of the roller coaster. It's part of the NCT, so we got to do it.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. So if you would say, because you say every waking hour you spend, or you would like to spend hiking, on average per day, how many hours on a day are you actually hiking?
9 to 10.
I would say it's probably more than that. Our GPS is not always super reliable when it comes to tracking that.
I think it would be 9 to 10.
I think it would, well, some of the days that we've been doing recently, it would probably be more like 12 hours of moving time.
Some days might be 12.
That day we did 44. Definitely we were moving for 12 hours.
I would say averages 9 to 10.
Averages, yeah, 10 and 11.
So we're not getting out. Again, this is something that you can, I don't know, it's such a different through hike that you can't do a lot of the stuff that you can do on, when I say smaller through hikes, like even
other through hikes,
Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, like
regular, normal through hikes.
Yeah, you gotta conserve your mental energy and your physical energy a little differently. It's like you can crush your body for 2,000 miles.
Yeah, we could wake up at 5 every morning and hike until like 9 p.m. We have the daylight to do that, but it's miserable.
Yeah, so like on the PCT and CDT, both her and I, our mentalities, how we hiked that was like, we just crushed our bodies into the ground and finished. And well, maybe not so much PCT for me, but you did on the PCT,
I was pretty quick on the PCT. On the CDT, I had no choice but to crush myself.
Yeah, but like, you can do that for 3 months and it's okay. You finish the trail, you're kind of broken, but you got time to recoup. This trail, even if you tried to crush for 3 months straight, you would be halfway there. You would be halfway there and you couldn't do it. So like, you have to take that energy and still hold it pretty much that close, but just extend it twice the amount of time on trail. So we're not getting out of camp as soon as early as most hikers do. We're probably getting out of camp like 7 a.m.
Sometimes 8.
Sometimes
if we're lazy.
Sometimes 8 if we're lazy. And then we're hiking until 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So we're doing about 12 hours, but in that 12 hours, 9 to 10 hours of hiking, those 2 hours, we usually spend about an hour for lunch to charge up stuff, eat, I don't really filter water, and
just
then sit. And then there might be an hour worth of
an accumulated hour worth of breaks. So a lot of those are in the morning, actually.
Yeah.
So we don't get like the mile. Normally on a through hike, you would try to get the miles done in the morning so that you can just like chill through the afternoon and just like, find a good place to camp and whatever. But there's just, with the way that this is set up, our camping is prescribed again. So we have to like camp where it's legal, which doesn't mean camping where it's good to camp. And so it's like a lot of dry camps, which means that like in the morning you're looking for water, spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes filtering, and then you hike on, and then you're like, okay, one or the other of us has to poop now, so we take another break.
Bathroom breaks add for that too. So that's how the mind works. Like even bathroom breaks are a break. Like once you're done using the bathroom, that's been the break. So got to keep going.
And then it's like, if we find a random picnic table or like somewhere that's unexpectedly actually pretty, we're gonna stop there because that's gonna be the only time that happens all day. So it adds up. And then in the afternoon, we just probably do 20 to 25 miles after lunch.
We crush in the afternoon. That's usually the time that we just start crushing miles. I don't know. It's weird. It's like we have a base of through hiking because we've been doing it for so long, but it's a completely different beast. We've had to tweak how we hike. Yeah. Just almost completely. Like we had to do a 180 on how we look at the miles, how we hike, and it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How long did it take you to get into that rhythm? in a different rhythm?
I don't think we chose it. I think the trail just kicked our butts and said, "This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing." Because I guess we might have, like, because in New York and Vermont, we were waking up at getting out of camp by 6:30. Like we had that initial gung-ho hiker pace. And then
New York, I think even we were starting to get into this mode too, because New York was like a trial version of Ohio in some ways, where it was like, okay, this is your campsite for tonight, and it's like you're gonna have to go find water in the morning because there's nothing here. It's just a state land patch. And so that's when it kind of, we started getting into that. And then yeah, and it's not like if we woke up earlier, it's not like where it's the desert where if you like get up early in the morning, you can beat the heat.
Yeah.
It's hot all night. It's hot all day. It's always hot. There's no point.
And then I think it's going to change again, but also like with where we are, our minds also rationalize like we don't have to because our pace is so good and the terrain is susceptible to big miles that it's like, even if we get out of camp at this time, we know we'll get above 30 today. We know we'll make it before camp. We know we'll get our miles in. We don't have to rush, but we'll get it in.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's going to change once we get into Michigan, more Minnesota. We might have to play with the timing, but
that is the good thing about being on a road walk is that you can just look at it and go like, okay, we'll do 35 today and not have to worry about what the terrain is going to be like for the most part. I think that was part of why we're getting frustrated whenever there were trail sections because it's like, well, we can't predict what that's going to be.
Yeah,
we could predict what it was going to be.
It might be good if it's state park. It might not be good if some of the state parks are in bad shape.
Yeah,
and occasionally, like some of these random like horseback trails that we'd be on would be great, but and it's also like
it was interesting how it would work.
It's very so like when we're like, okay, well, if it's all road today, then we can definitely do 36, and you just know you can. So it's just a matter of just doing it.
Yeah.
It was interesting how even the trail segments worked. So like you would be in a trail segment and say the trail was 15 miles around a lake or something, like single track trail. First 2 miles might be immaculate, and then all of a sudden you hit a wall of thorns, and then you have the next 3 miles of like sporadic thorns and then bush up to your neck, and then all of a sudden you just pop out of the thorns.
There's
and you
random
have
2 mile section that's not connected to anything, that's perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden it's like thorns again.
So your mind can't even rationalize like how it works.
No.
So like a lot of the time if you look at a map and you see a trailhead here, you're like, okay, day hikers or section hikers are going to go 2 or 3 miles in, and then it might get bad here because not a lot of foot traffic. And
then we'll get to the other side and it'll be good again.
But there's no rationality there. It's Looney Tunes land. There's a lot of different stuff going on. We don't know what or why or how, but there's stuff going on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very confusing.
It is.
Yeah.
A little confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, difficult to plan as well.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah, the planning too. I mean, a lot of the time, even our schedule is dictated by legal camping again. So like the NCT, especially in Ohio, for some reason, you are not allowed to camp in state parks unless you're at a RV or like front country campground. So like the legal camping is so, I can't even express enough. It's so hard in Ohio. Like you're either doing 10 miles, 35 miles, or like 45 miles. And some days you don't even have that many options. So like some days you only have one option. Some days you have an option of.
Yeah, there was one day it was like we either do 43 miles or we.
Oh yeah.
Nothing. You have to.
Yeah.
And then our small mile days, which they're not terrible, but like one of our small mile days might have been a 22 mile day. And something like that is like, well, we were getting out of town this day. We're not going to crank out a 42 miler out of town because we have to wake up, and it's always hard breaking the town gravity. So it's contingent on like, there's so many factors that go into it that don't necessarily go into a backcountry hike that we didn't really perceive going into this as much. And granted, if we were different people that planned better, it might have been different, but it's a different type of hike. It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a couple places where we decided that it was definitely the national forest, and we were like, it's woods. We're definitely still in the national forest. Yep.
National forest is
national forest is legal. You can wild camp in a national forest.
Yeah.
You can't wild camp in a state forest is a gray area. There were some days that we walked an ATV track that like went in and out of the forest boundary, and we're like, I just think this good campsite is definitely still inside the national forest. Yep, it is.
we definitely camped on it 2 times in Ohio. We camped on an ATV track thinking
There's
no way ATVs get back in here. And each night we had multiple ATVs with top racks almost run our tent over. And it was like, okay, this is why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we slept under a bridge.
Slept under a bridge, yes.
Yeah. It was actually a nice campsite.
It was one of our best campsites, if that tells you how it's been. Ohio underneath the bridge was immaculate. It was wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, for anybody that watches this, if you hike Ohio, look for the bridges. Look for the bridges. They're awesome.
They're the best.
They're the best. Fine quality living there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And will that change, you think, when you cross over to Michigan was up first, you said, right? Next one?
Yeah.
Will be
It definitely will.
Easier to set up camp in that state?
Yeah.
Michigan, I think, is almost entirely on some kind of state forest, national forest, wildland.
And you're allowed to disperse camp in there.
And the state lets you sleep on their public land.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also like people, like I think the Michigan section of the NCT is like the most hiked part of it.
Yeah.
Aside from the part that's like on the Superior Hiking Trail, but like
it's hiked all the time.
Of the NCT portions that are just the NCT, it's definitely the part that people do.
We had a man and woman reach out to us that, have done pretty much all of Michigan this year, like about a month ago. They did it, and they were just section hiking Michigan. So they just chose Michigan to do, and they pretty much gave us the down and dirty about what to expect. And their pace is like very similar to ours. They were doing 32s, 33s, 34s, kind of grab bag of those miles. And every day they had like a good campsite. They had good water. It was, again, luxury living. Like we're thinking it's going to be an invisible line. We haven't celebrated crossing a state on trails in a long time, because like at a certain point, it just becomes miles and trail and all of it's one thing. We are going to celebrate crossing the Ohio-Michigan state line.
Well, and like, it was funny when we crossed into Ohio, we were looking on the map and we we're like, oh, you can really tell. Because when we were leaving Pennsylvania, which was great, we get to the end of a state park, and then our next trail mile in Ohio is a highway. Yeah. And so we like pop out of the bushes and there's the highway, and it's like, welcome to Ohio roads. And I think it's going to be like the reverse. We're going to get to like the edge of the Ohio state line on this bike path, and it's going to be like forest. Welcome back. We missed you.
We missed you.
Yeah. That would be a good change.
Yeah, that would be that for sure.
Yeah. But Michigan, like everything that's tagged NCT that actually looks pretty is mostly in Michigan. So we're really looking forward to
Michigan. I mean,
it's supposed to be one of the best parts of the trail.
Michigan, I mean, the North Country part of the North Country Trail seems pretty epic. These Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, I think they're called the North Country.
That region of the US is called the North Country. Yeah. So like now we're actually getting to the real North Country.
Yeah. So I think that part's gonna be pretty sweet. And I don't know. I mean, it's just a different hike. It's nothing we could have predicted, but moving through
we're
it
almost done.
slowly.
That's the best thing.
Yeah. We are chewable. I think now we're like 26 or 2,700 miles away. So like that's very almost the length of the PCT. So like that's very, very, very. Yeah. We can wrap our head around that pretty well.
Yeah.
And our average has been creeping up. Every day that we're doing full hiking days, we're pretty much going above 30s. Today was our first 0 in a month. And it's like everything's starting to click into the places that it needs to finish the trail. And I think that might have been a little bit about when we started eating into Ohio. It was like, it was still so far away, all this stuff. And it was like a lot of stuff of like, oh, is our pace going to finish? Are we moving quickly enough?
Oh yeah, because when we started Ohio, we got vaccinated, so we were sick for a day, and then we got to Tuesdays, and then we got to Lisbon, and Constantine was sick for 2 days.
Mhm.
So that was 2 more things that like broke us down, and then I got sick near Zor, so we only did 20 miles that day. And so it was just like our pace got really slow at the beginning of this. And then we looked at how much Ohio was left. We were like, no.
Well, it was a lot of uncontrollables that happen on a through hike, but it's just harder when it happens on a through hike of this length.
And then like
when
you've
timed like every day, you're like, I gotta do this day.
Yeah.
It's like one after another. Like we had a week stretch in there that 2 of the days I was sick, 1 of the day Magpie was sick. A 4th day we couldn't do more miles because it was pure road and we had to stay with the Trail Angel. So like 4 out of 7 of those days was like
short.
Just cutting into what art we needed to do. So that was a
tough.
mentally tough week too.
Yeah.
Do y'all want to know how I got sick?
Not filters your water.
Oh, you guys go.
What a surprise! Gee, I wonder how they figured that one out.
Man, y'all are Sherlock Holmes over there. So I drank unfiltered from a place. I will give you the name. It was called Beaver Creek. So they named the creek after beavers too, and
which famously carried Giardia.
Yeah. I told Magpie.
It was also a horse trail with like horse prints all around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, horses have definitely pooped in this water.
I told Magpie from now on, I will only drink water that is filtered from a beaver's fur. So you pour the water down the beaver and then just drink straight from its tail. So that's how I'm going to drink water from now on. A beaver funnel.
Way easier.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
Way easier. Y'all got it pretty quick. Wow.
Well, it was either that or eating hot dogs, so it's not really 50-50 shot.
Can't do the hot dogs anymore.
I'm happy to report he didn't carry any weird meat.
No.
And so that's progress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we're still expecting at least a pickle a ma, right? So I hope you
no.
those.
The average is so low. It's gonna hurt so bad, man. That's the average now to actually get that done would be like 60 pickled eggs a day. It would be an uncomfortable amount. Oh, maybe I can just save it all for the finale. Maybe we can just do 4,000.
Like speed eating contest of like horking down pickled eggs.
We'll have to do the math. 4,700 divided by 24 hours in a day. What would that come out to?
I don't know.
It'll come out to a little over 200 eggs an hour. So if we can do that, I think we're A-okay.
Yep. Good
I
luck.
think you will probably be a bit sick after that. But...
Good luck. Let's see. That's 5.
Yeah.
We're going to be shooting for 4 or 5 eggs a minute. I think it comes out to like 4.5 eggs a minute. So I'll eat 4 whole and then take a bite of a half and have Magpie hold the halves while I keep pounding back the eggs each minute. Oh no, I can't. No. I want to. I don't know if I can though. I don't know if I'm strong enough, y'all.
Yeah.
I wish my mentality was stronger. Oh.
I'm trying to think now if you actually did carry any weird meat, but I don't think you did.
Slim Jims.
Oh yeah, you bought Slim Jims again, but you actually ate those.
I probably did carry weird meat at some point in Ohio.
Well, he keeps buying Slim Jims and eating them, and he doesn't like Slim Jims.
Oh, I still have the Spam. I've been carrying Spam for 1,900 miles. 1 packet. It's like soup. If you feel it, my food bag's somewhere around here. Her face. If you feel it, like the consistency of Spam already is gnar, but like this one has been baking in
it's
90
been getting pulverized underneath his pack.
It's like soup. Like if you open this thing up and you try to squeeze out the Spam, it would just pour out like a viscous liquid. It's so bad.
Delicious.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not gonna eat it at the end of the trail. I just gotta carry it to the end of the trail.
That's extra weight you don't need.
Yeah.
He likes to do these kinds of things. I mean, I'm in full support of him carrying the Spam as long as he promises not to try to eat it. So
I can't.
Yeah.
And then I always wonder why there's ants in my pack. And Magpie's always like, there's
It's because there's
reasons.
crumbs. It's because he put crumbs in there. Because he doesn't have a trash bag. He just puts his wrappers in the back of his pack. And then he's like, why are there ants?
No. I have a trash bag, but
you don't use.
But my midnight munch brain doesn't have a trash bag.
Mm.
So like
when he wakes up at midnight to eat, yeah.
The stuff that I eat during the day, I put in a trash bag. But when I wake up at midnight and shove food in my food hole, then I don't know where I put it. I put it like in my trash bag, in my food bag, in my pockets. It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, how many? I think he accidentally infested our hotel room a couple times ago with ants because there were so many ants in his pack that when he unpacked his pack, it was just like ants.
It's an absurd amount of ants.
He spent like the whole hotel day just like squish. And they were the biting ones too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, perfect.
It was, whoops.
Yeah.
Y'all still there?
Yep.
Yeah, it was so bad.
Oh, and there was a cockroach in your bag of Doritos also.
Oh, nice.
And he still ate them.
That, yeah.
We were really, really low on food and we had nothing else. So of course he still ate them. But yeah, he poured out his Doritos to put Doritos in his mashed potatoes for lunch and a cockroach fell out. He had to fish it out of his mashed potatoes with his hands. And then because it was the only food that he had left and I had nothing to share with him, he had to eat the potatoes.
It was so bad. Like, it was so nauseating eating that. That's the most nauseous I've been eating food on trail. Because like every bite you're thinking about that cockroach.
Yeah.
I found a couple cockroaches in my food bag as well. So like it was just like that. Yeah. There was also a centipede or a giant millipede that was in my pants at one point.
Y'all remember when we were doing these interviews earlier this year and like I have like button up shirts on and I was sitting in like air conditioning and like I looked clean shaven. Yeah.
Times, eh?
Yeah.
The good times, huh?
Yeah.
Are these the good times or were those the good times? Who knows now?
Yeah.
Oh man. Same person. Way different experiences, huh?
Yeah.
And this is what I was thinking would be fun to see the de-evolution or evolution of person outside of hiking trash into the hiking life, into the hiking life more and more.
Deep into it.
Yeah. I'm hoping again there's a curve that as we get closer, we start climbing it out and getting out of this. This shouldn't be the norm that we fish cockroaches out of our mashed potato bowl. That shouldn't be okay. That should not be okay.
No.
Yeah.
I think you both lost a lot of weight in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you've lost some. I've lost actually an alarming amount of weight.
Yeah.
You looked more. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit gross actually. Like I can see my like sternum bone on my chest, like the outline of my rib cage in my chest, which isn't great. I've actually gained a little bit of weight.
Even in the day we've been here.
Even in the couple days like we've been here. It was the worst when we were like in the middle of Ohio because again, the food situation wasn't great. Yeah. So we're trying to resupply out of these really sad dollar stores and like there's just not a way to get enough calories, even if it's like a ton of sugar. Yeah. It just doesn't fuel you. It doesn't stay on. So
I would say within
the last week or so, I've gained some weight, but
we've gained weight. I mean, drinking sugary sodas when you get to town.
That's part of why we've been doing the smoothie thing too, is because it's like it's highly caloric beverage, but it doesn't make you feel full. So it's just like bonus calories.
I mean, yeah, peanut M&Ms. If I could show you everything around us right now, it's just everything outside of this frame is just food sprawled across the room. There's like boxes of donuts, Milanos.
We already ate the donuts.
Chick-fil-A, pizza. We're just stacked on a bag of Oreos. We're trying.
Yeah, doing our best. But yeah, we both lost significant weight.
It's at the point of a through hike that if you spend a day or two, like on our 0 day, if you spend a day just shoveling in, you actually are able to put something on because your body's so at a baseline now that any fluctuation, it goes drastically. So like you're pushing so much that if you actually stop for a second and you eat, you can put something on. But if you keep digging into it, that's when it starts burning the muscle again, and not good.
No, that's not good.
Yeah, I also think I just needed vitamins too, because after that 2.5 week stretch where it was just dollar stores, I was feeling so tired and just like, not even like cranky is the right word, but just like, I mean, I definitely was cranky, but like there was a deeper thing
Let's
to it.
touch on this a little bit longer.
I was definitely cranky, but it wasn't just being cranky. It was more of just like a feeling of like being depleted or like being off. Like I was just like, oh, like something's just like wrong. I don't know what it is. And like we had the idea in that town to like, let's just buy a gallon bottle of smoothie. And like after that, I was like, I feel amazing, like so much better. I'm like, maybe what I needed the whole time was vitamin C.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've been living on Oreos and mashed potatoes for 2 weeks. Like,
we're moving quickly over the cranky term here.
I was cranky. I don't deny it.
They say many people get lost in the Appalachians every year. I almost became a statistic.
Oh, come on. I mean, I almost did.
Come on. Don't give me the come on. It was close.
I would have just left you behind.
Yeah.
I am faster on road walks, so.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew, yeah. But yeah, we made it.
You survived.
Knock on wood. We're here. We're happy.
Uh-huh.
We're here.
That was good.
Yeah.
Can imagine that if
But-
it's so depleted, it doesn't help.
No.
No, I think it definitely is partly like a vitamin thing, because now that we've been able to like actually get real-ish food, like at least like go to a Mexican place and get something with tomatoes in it or whatever, that's like helping the mood a lot, as well as helping get like weight back on the body. And like it's hard for me to, I don't know, like it's hard to want to eat when all you have is sugar, and you know it's just going to give you a sugar high and then a crash 10 minutes later. You're like, I'm hungry, but I don't want this.
Yeah.
And the best way I've come to define it is it just feels like we're on a through hike again. And that feels good. That's why we do these trails. That's why we hike, is we like the feeling of being on a through hike. And it didn't there was a chunk there that it didn't feel that way. It felt like we were wandering or walking. And then as soon as it kind of switched, everything that you deal with in a through hike that you were dealing with anyway, like the tough miles, the malnutrition, the long days, that's what you expect on a through hike. So once it felt like that again, just everything became common and easy again.
And also got less hot, so.
Yeah. That helps definitely. Yeah.
That does help. Yeah. We got caught in a giant ass bubble of rain though. That was intense.
Yeah. We hopped into like a gazebo pavilion thing that had a little cinder brick wall around it, just to like keep the dirt out or whatever. So we get in there just as it's like going from like, oh, it's kind of raining to like, oh, this is a storm. Within 5 minutes, the gazebo was like flooded like 3 inches because it was raining so hard.
It was nuts.
Lightning everywhere. We pulled up the weather radar, and you know how it's got those like colored blobs? So like green is rain, and then like as it gets more intense, it like moves toward red. The center of the storm that we were in, they like ran out of colors, and so they went from like red to pink to purple.
They shouldn't have a classification of purple. Red should be the worst. Yeah, purple you shouldn't be able to classify something as purple. That means it's too bad.
Yeah.
So,
it moved fast though.
Oh, luckily,
So it was good. And surprisingly, even in the heat wave, within the last week or two, you know how we always joke she's a rain magnet, right?
Yeah.
Ohio has now gotten the most record rainfall for the month of July that it's ever gotten on ever. Not just like this year, last year, or anything. Ever.
Well, they were having a drought before I got here, so I did them a favor.
Yeah.
You did. You did them a great favor, didn't you?
Didn't we also go through like one of the wettest New York months on record too.
I don't know why you're so happy about it.
I mean, it's just at this point.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a few towns here in Australia that could use you then.
I know. You gotta go to Australia and hike.
I mean, if it means I get to leave Ohio, I'm down.
Yeah.
We have a friend based out of a small town up in Michigan, and she's been messaging us the entire time, and they're still in drought. I'm like, don't you worry, we'll be there soon enough. Like, you guys won't have to worry about drought ever again for a while. Because we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there soon enough.
Oh.
It's always something. It's always something fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Just one more, sorry, very
Sidestepping question.
question, because we never asked, but how do you get your name, Magpie?
My name? So it was on the CDT actually. So I was going southbound, and it started. So the CDT starts off where the first couple places where you can resupply are these really small, like state park campgrounds, basically. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. He just got a bunch of notifications.
This is part of why her name's Magpie,
Yeah,
actually.
that's that too, because he started playing with shiny stuff over there.
Yeah. And shiny stuff on the phone.
It's part of it. But yeah, so basically I was doing sink laundry, and this state park bathroom was so kind of old and janky that like metal fixtures kept coming off in my hand. So like I went to hang my socks up and the towel rack fell down. And then I like went to turn the tap on and like the faucet came off in my hand. Then I put my things over to like grab the soap, and the soap dispenser comes off, and I'm like, oh, I'm just like collecting shiny objects over here. And one of my friends that I was with was like, oh, you're like a magpie. Someone else was like, magpie, yeah, that's your trail name. So, and I mean, at the time too, I had like a teal blue streak in my hair. So I kind of had the colors at the same time. So it all just worked.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And like any trail name, it grows. A magpie is also a very noisy bird.
Oh, I'm not noisy.
Beautifully noisy. It's not an insult.
I know. And also
But
they're also very smart birds.
You're a smart bird then.
And you don't want to meet them while they're in swooping season.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we
Oh
have
yeah,
here in
Australian
Australia.
magpies are different, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard the Australian magpies are something else.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
that's why we were very curious to learn about where your name came from, because here during swooping season they come out to attack you. They really want to get the eyes out of your head.
So they attack your eyes because they're shiny.
Oh yeah.
So,
they're aggressive over.
They're very aggressive.
They're very aggressive
during this certain season.
So it's in September. It's swooping season here in Australia, and then you better be very careful where you walk, because and they follow you.
Yeah, they keep swooping down and attacking you.
How big are they? Regular size magpies?
I don't know what for you regular sizes, but
they're quite
like a crow.
Like about the same as a crow.
Look like a crow, yeah.
Big enough that they would do damage if they actually got.
Yes.
They hurt a lot of people every year. Yeah.
Oh, that's not good. I'm not. Yeah. I don't know why I'm. No, the image of it is just. It doesn't happen a lot. It's yeah.
Yeah, I've been told about the Australian magpies too. Yeah, and I'm like, well, okay.
So that's why we're like very curious, but every time we like hang up, we're like, oh, I forgot to ask it again. So I was like, I need to know.
Yeah, it's the shiny objects thing. That's where my blog name came from. Yeah.
They but they're very intelligent here, because you can actually befriend a magpie. So if you're in a neighborhood where a magpie is, you can actually give them food every day or every year, and they recognize you. And then during swooping season, they actually protect you from the magpies.
Oh, what?
Like, no, you're my friend, and so it's very interesting.
You just gotta bribe a magpie. It's like they're like the mob. It's like an extortion racket.
Yeah.
Nice pair of eyes you got.
Fix them up.
Sure be a shame if anything happened to those eyes. You know, cough up the peanuts, pal.
Well, if I don't give her enough chicken nuggets out of my order either.
That's true.
It's the same thing. Got to cough up the chicken nuggets. Got to pay the homage. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
That's an interesting fact. That's awesome.
You can make friends with the North American magpies too. They do the same. They don't swoop, but they'll be friends with you if you give them food.
Really?
And they'll actually like bring you stuff. They'll like find like shiny things for you and like bring them to you because you're friends.
Huh.
I know of someone who like made friends with some crows, and then the crows started finding like spare money on the street. One time a crow brought her $100 bill.
That's a smart crow.
She was like, oh.
That's
Okay.
a good investment.
Lots of peanuts for you today.
That's a very smart crow.
Yeah.
Huh. You gotta train it though. You only give them.
Canadian money is shiny. It's got a hologram in it.
You give them 1 peanut for $1, 100 peanuts for $100. So they start realizing that you got to bring in more of the denominations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the story.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could I throw in one disclaimer real quick?
Yeah.
Because I know probably some Buckeye Trail Association members and people that hike the Buckeye are going to probably watch this. It's all these stories are not ragging on the trail. Like it was tough for us mentally because we're doing the fullness of the NCT, and tough because it was the summer months in the South. Like Ohio's the Midwest, but it's pretty much the South. And if you chewed it up, if you came in with the right expectations and knew what you were getting into as a through hike or a section hike, very manageable.
Yeah.
Circumstantial in how it hit us with the rain, the
Yeah.
weather, all this stuff. So
Yeah,
wasn't us ragging on it, but it was us. It was us feeling it in many ways. It was us feeling the Buckeye.
Yeah.
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 Probably it's a different experience as well if you set out just to hike the hike the Buckeye. Then it's a whole different
You know what you're
experience.
getting yourself into. Yeah.
Well, and you'd pick a different season.
Different season. Wouldn't feel as rushed. There'd be a lot of factors. You go into more towns. We wouldn't do food carries that are 180 miles at times. It would be a lot of different factors. I mean, that's any hike too. So it's kind of like it is what you make out of it. And our goal was we have to make Ohio quick. We have to push through Ohio. We have to make it efficient. So like when we would get hit by these inefficient pieces of trail, it would be more frustrating.
But the Buckeyes' goal is not to be efficient, so it's not their fault.
No. True.
That was for us, so we don't have to deal with all the angry Buckeye Trail.
People love the Buckeye Trail.
They do.
So
Yeah.
Sorry we had to throw that in there.
No, all good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, it was great catching up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely been a while.
Yeah.
It was 1,000 miles. So
Yeah.
we did 1,000 miles in a month.
yeah, we did.
Yeah.
About a month.
Smashed them out.
Little over a month. Yeah. So yeah, been a while.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazing to hear all the stories again. It's really good.
Yeah. I mean,
Next time, hopefully, we won't be complaining quite so much. But it's definitely good to catch up.
Part of the journey as well. So that's good.
Yeah.
To hear
it is.
Those sections as well where it's not always happy and sunshine. Like there's tough sections in there as well. So.
I did want to, and I know we spent a good amount of time on it, but I did want to, specifically target that mentality part of it.
Yeah.
Like, because that happens on any through hikes in different capacities, but like on such a long trail, like if people use these videos to plan parts of their NCT or just learn more about it, it's kind of like,
that's a huge
huge aspect of Ohio for even people that we've talked to that have done it in sections of NCT and like big sections. Ohio is their big mental beast. Like the miles might not be the most physically difficult, but it's the mentally most difficult chunk of the journey. So like I really wanted to spend some time digging into that and feeling it out and like letting everybody know. So thank you for letting us do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool, guys.
120 more miles, you said? Then onto Michigan?
About
120
more miles to Defiance and then 70 miles across. So we'll be out of Ohio in less than a week.
Okay.
Yes. You will see many pictures of us at that border.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to celebrate. I feel like I'm going to just start taking stuff off and chucking it across the border into Michigan, and just I don't know, stuff's going to get wild.
Yeah.
We're looking
We're looking
to
forward to it.
Yeah. Awesome. You guys got any through hikes coming up?
No, not for a little bit.
No.
For the next probably a month and a half, we will settle down somewhere to really focus on the business.
Cool.
We want to establish some changes, and well, we have to focus some, or give it some more attention.
Yeah.
And then from there, we're going to travel again and hopefully do some smaller hikes.
While traveling, yes.
Some overnighters and things like that. So
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to catch up a little quicker into it. Not a 4,000 miles, because we definitely forgot some stories along the way. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to check in.
Yeah,
definitely. This should be possible.
This
for
one
sure.
was especially interesting because Australia and internet connection is not very up to scratch yet. So there are parts of Australia, especially where we were, there's just a stretch of 14 days of no cell reception at all. So
it sounds great, but it also sounds difficult while trying to manage a business.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
it was great though.
Yeah.
Just to not have to think about anything. It's just walking, enjoying the nature, and being out there. So it was.
And even if you thought about it, there's nothing you could do about it. Yeah.
You see, even on top of the mountain, you're like, no, nothing. So
yeah, this is the first time I've had cell reception since I got to Vermont, actually. So there's like some quirk of like Canadian cell phone plans don't work with a certain US cell provider.
Oh yeah.
And it's only Verizon until you get to this part of Ohio, and then it's like, oh, there's other cell phone providers now. My phone has service.
Oh wow.
I have not had cell service in over 2 months. I've had Wi-Fi, but not cell service. So
wow, yeah,
it's been great.
It has been.
I don't worry about anything.
That's true. Yeah, it's like a really back to basic, nothing to worry about, except
yeah.
But yeah, it should be able to be more regular from now on again. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll check in.
We'll keep
probably once we get into Michigan, we'll shoot you a message, see what y'all are doing, and give y'all a wave or say hi.
Keep us posted. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Awesome, guys.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.